Hi, everybody. David Noor. Want to welcome you to episode 6 of the Inner Circle live stream and podcast. Delighted you're here. I am so excited to, beyond having heard from me and defining what an inner circle is and what are the key attributes and how do you, become intentional about building your inner circle or certainly contributing to the inner circle of others. I thought I would start to invite guests of these are executives that I like, I trust, I respect. They have, and I've got to tell you, having launched Avneer this past year, I've got a new level of respect for operators because as an outsider, you can coach, you can consult, you can guide, but you're always going to be an outsider. And when that person or that leader's in the seat, it's a whole different level. That the signage or the quote, I think from I think it's Harry Truman or one of the presidents that talks about a man in the arena, right? Theodore Roosevelt, right? I think it's a quote from Teddy Roosevelt that talks about, the person that's in the arena lives a very different life than those that critique what you do and how you do it. So for our very first guest on the Inner Circle live stream podcast, I'm elated to welcome Cheryl Cook. Hello, Cheryl.
Hi, Noor. Thanks for having me.
It is great to have you. For our audience who may not know about your background, would you kindly just start a little about where you've been, what you've done, how you've arrived here?
Oh, well, thanks so much. Well, I have had, I think, a very fabulous ride in high tech and the IT industry for a little over 40 years. So I've done everything from engineering to sales and marketing and direct sales and indirect partner sales with 3 fabulous companies at NCR and Sun Microsystems and most recently Dell Technologies. So I feel really blessed and just had a fantastic ride in a rather dynamic industry, kind of by the nature of IT. It's always innovating, evolving, and transforming. And I kind of really get stimulated by the change. So I've really just had a great run. And I love working with partners. I know we're going to talk a little bit about that. But most recently was leading global partner marketing at Dell. And I just recently retired. So I'm having fun on the other side.
I love that. Every time I see you, you feel more refreshed. You're living that the life that you've always wanted to with travel and with your family. Talk about this most recent role. What were you responsible for? What did you do at Dell? Give the audience a little bit of scope of your work.
Sure. Well, I think actually one of the most exciting opportunities I had, honestly, was with Dell. And, I was in both sales and marketing there, but I was a part of the highly successful merger with EMC and Dell. So had a really unique opportunity, I think, for 2 large companies at scale to really kind of clean sheet an externally facing partner program where both companies had successful programs. It was a very synergistic merger, but I would say, ultimately led global partner marketing, but was a part of the very first team where we came together and genuinely tried to keep the best of both. And how can we really help engage our partner community so that they could maximize the potential that, we thought bringing the 2 companies together would bring. So it was all about, program development, then ultimately, program launch. And we put together partner advisory boards on where we collaborated firsthand, and happy to kind of talk through that a little bit on how we could create kind of a win-win scenario, and one of the reasons I really like partnering so much is I think it requires 3-dimensional thinking. And you got to think about the customer, the partner, and ultimately the OEM or the manufacturing vendor. And when you get that synchronicity right, magic happens.
I love it. For our audience, and Cheryl, you and I talked about this. So I'm writing the next book called Inner Circle, and it takes me typically about 3 to 4 years to think about the ideas. And at some point, you've read enough. You've talked enough, you've consulted or coached enough about a topic where you feel like you have something to say. This episode, we're focusing on helping partners win. And the reason I wanted you as a guest is, again, you've been really successful in that trifecta, in not only helping the customers get the best of the solutions for what they need, but obviously the partners have got to be successful and feel like they're a critical part of that value formula, and then ultimately the company. In your case, Dell had to win from that scenario. So let's start with kind of your definition. You and I briefly talked about it. I think we're very much aligned with what, Cheryl, what do you think when you hear this idea of inner circle? Talk about, what does something like that mean to you?
Well, I think for me, it's a safe place and it's a safe team, meaning, you're not going to hold back or be conservative or reserved in sharing thoughts, ideas, pros and cons, and really fostering a genuine, open, trusted, let's vet the positives, the negatives, and what ifs together. And obviously, with a group of people you respect, you trust, but as importantly, they just bring a perspective or an expertise or an orientation or a skill set that I don't have or isn't my strength. So it's that diversity of strong capabilities, but also with the how, the rapport and the chemistry that people feel that it's safe to be honest,
What made it safe? What did you go through with the attendees of that partner, either program, campaign? You got a group of, I love how you described it, competent, capable people together. Would it be always around a campaign or initiative or a customer, or is it more holistic than that? And what made it safe?
Well, I think part of it is you build rapport. So confidentiality in some cases, if you're going to kind of pre-vet or pre-release kind of a concept or an idea, I think it's always important to be as clear and crisp on the outcome you're trying to achieve. So there's not any confusion, and also ensuring that it's not one-sided or self-serving, right? I mean, I find that literally almost in any kind of business oriented discussion, if the outcome or the objective or the goal can really be grounded in kind of shared success, a mutual shared vision for either growth or whatever the outcome is, then you'll get a lot of free flowing, honest ideas because we can't all do it alone. We need each other and we need each other's strengths to achieve it. And I think, so confidentiality, showing good faith with them that the outcome, I think clarity and as clear as we can be on the mission, the vision, the outcome, you can get people to galvanize around it, I think is.
You're gonna love this. Our pastor, former pastor, would say, the bigger the gap between who you pretend to be and who you actually are, the more exhausting life becomes.
That's fair said. Yeah, exactly.
You have to put on this facade and you have to pretend, and I've got this agenda, but I can't tell you about that agenda or share that agenda. And that's almost like the opposite of what you're talking about, because people come and they're forthcoming, and here's either what I need from this, our work together, or here's what I can contribute to it. Here's what I'm willing to do. I found a lot of times it's as much what I'm willing to do as what I'm maybe capable of doing.
Absolutely.
So talk about, so we talked about the safety is the rapport you've built leading up to it. That candor, where does that come from? That transparency, that authenticity, where does that come from?
Well, I think, I'm a big believer in being authentic, and maybe it's personal style, but I think everybody, if you can just demonstrate, I'm not a very hierarchical person. So for me, you can get great ideas and good thought from peers and laterals or anywhere up and down the chain. And I think, I'm a little competitive, and I think most of us in our space are. And if we really want to win, what I'm looking for is a team win, not a personal individual win. And I think if you can just demonstrate that, and a lot of it's good communication, done right, whatever the outcome is we're hoping to achieve, would this benefit you? And just get grounded in validating and collaborating on what's as exciting a success and win for them so that we're on a shared page and a shared mission, then I think people feel heard, right? They can genuinely kind of buy in. They can get trust to that it isn't just self-serving. And I think that's really when robust, meaningful partnerships, relationships, candid, and don't violate the confidence that someone's given you, right? So if it's
Love
in
that.
confidence and you can demonstrate that you're willing to treat it that way and respect it, I think you get what you give.
Love that. Thinking about your own inner circle. So Cheryl's at the middle. There's now this group of it's intimate relationship, professional, intimate relationships, people you've known for a while, you like, you respect, you trust, people that are almost closest to you. What are some of the critical attributes you would look for or highly value, Cheryl, in the people that you let close to you? You let, your guards down, or you would be transparent with not just here's the potential upside, but here's the potential risk, or here's what I'm most concerned about or I'm afraid of. So what are the attributes of that you really look for in people you let close to you?
Well, I always am trying to move forward. And like I said, I worked in just a fast paced, innovative, always changing industry. So I like really curious people, people that are curious and self learning and they're looking at ways to innovate. I'm very much a outside in thinker. I'm kind of obsessed with customers, with partners. I think that's why I love Dell so much. I mean, Michael built a company over being customer obsessed. And I just think the ultimate litmus test is how it lands there, not necessarily all the oxygen we all breathe. So for me, I love diverse ideas. I love people that are forward thinking. I like people that don't stay too wedded or cemented in the past. We need to learn from it, but that's just another stepping stone on the way we can always be better or we can achieve more. And I think, when you look at the world today, AI is a great example of just what's going to be another disruptive capability, but it in its essence requires just strong, huge partnerships because it's the type of capability and it's the type of opportunity that's going to lift and rise all tides, but none of us can do it alone. So this concept of collaborating, diversity of ideas, people that are willing to openly just share ideas, share challenges. Here's why I, poke holes in a concept if it's not good, or here's a way we could make it better. So I think open communicators, curious learners, people that have a shared competitiveness of winning and wanting to kind of help the team to another place. And then I'm always eager to just surround myself with people that are good at what I'm not. I don't, one team that all looks the same, you just aren't going to probably get as far. And like I said, I'm an outside in thinker. So I always tried to just people I respected and trusted that were either partners or customers to include them. Advisory boards are a way to do that, or personal relationships and personal rapports on, would this be a win for you and how would it help? And if not, how do I mitigate the downside?
You and I both have adult children, and I got to tell you, I love often their ideas, their perspectives, their fresh lens with which they come to the same problem or challenge or issue that you and I may have looked at several times. How did you, and how have you over the years, balance wisdom in the room that comes with age, but also that fresh thinking, fresh perspective, that really amplified sense of curiosity and a thirst to learn and grow and balance those two in that same room?
That's actually a fabulous question, because I think there's probably a lot of really good, enlightened uh, debate and discussion that could happen with both. And I think, part of it is I'm a big context person, and timing matters. So as fast as we want to go and we want to get it right, sometimes you can be ahead of what the org can absorb, or you could be ahead of, even in some technologies, are ahead of their time, right before they can even be adopted. So I think it's just giving everybody the free space, and again, that safety to feel like they can express themselves. Then ultimately we have to kind of calibrate at what pace do we take each of those inputs. But, the more diverse ideas, and honestly, the wisdom comes from successes and failures. And, that fresh perspective that some of the younger, they haven't been as jaded, they haven't had as many skin knees, all that's positive, but it has to be tempered with a little bit of realistic approach to go forward. And I think I know the right players matter. You got to have people that are willing to be open to hearing both, I think. But I think that, there's no downside to having a tight, trusted, but very diverse perspective of inputs.
I want you to think about some of the most successful partner relationships you had over the years. And Cheryl, maybe, some that didn't succeed as much. In delineating the two and really thinking about the attributes in your relationship and interaction and collaboration with both ends. If you're, as a leader, were building an inner circle today, how would you go about it? How would you start? How would you start to think about, right, here's 3, 5, 8. Again, I think this is more of a SEAL team than a battalion.
Yeah.
So I don't need everybody in the room, but I need the right people in the room. How would you go about building that inner circle of some of the best, most collaborative partner relationships you've had in the past?
Yeah, well, like I said, I think, specifically, I'd probably be looking for people that I respected. They've got a certain amount of success in navigating, whatever their area of expertise is. Again, back to where I said diversity, their particular expertise and their particular strength, because ultimately we want to lean on each other's strengths to kind of rise all tides. So I would probably make sure I understood what are the specific business contributions we're seeking. I would probably want to make sure, from just a style perspective, that you were putting together a group that would at least be similar in their willingness to stay engaged, offer input. You can have really nice relationships, but it's more meaningful for all of us if everybody participates and engages. So typically not a shy group, for where I'd be. So I would say functional area of expertise, a little bit of style on that side of collaborators willing to give for the greater good and know that here's the outcome we're seeking. And then probably, I think your question of wisdom in the room and youth is actually a good criteria to ensure that you've just got fresh perspectives that might not have to have the check mark of the area of continuity of all the other things we're talking about, but would just be a fresh voice in the room, would actually be probably pretty interesting, I think.
For our audience, if you just joined us, you're listening to Cheryl Cook. Most recently, she was Senior Vice President of Global Partner Marketing at Dell Technologies, and instrumental in that Dell EMC kind of merger. And what I love is since retirement, she's been gracious enough to agree to serve on the Avnir Advisory Board, and some incredible wisdom in how to really help partners succeed, how to help partners win. So we're talking about inner circle, from defining it to the attributes that Cheryl highly values. How would you go about starting it? So let's talk about Michael. In your previous life, Michael was putting together a really strategic initiative. And wanted to build an inner circle towards that. How would you coach someone to become a valuable member of that? There's only so many seats around that table, right? So it's high valued real estate. The pressure and expectations have got to be high, because again, that doesn't happen every day. So if you're lucky enough to get those opportunities, what would you coach someone to really do to be a valuable member of that room, of that inner circle?
Well, I would say make sure we all are aligned and understand what shared success looks like. And do we have the same definition, the same outcome in mind? And really strong, capable leaders will understand how to align themselves and their role and my swim lane and my participation in that vision to help us achieve it. Because frankly, it's a team sport. It's about combined success rather than individual success. So I think clarity of the outcome, clarity of what we're all trying to achieve would certainly be super important. And I think bringing whatever your area of responsibility or your area of expertise is, you can't be passive. You have to make sure that you're the advocate of either your partner, your customer, your organization, because to achieve that team success, you're the representative or that voice or that lens on the opportunity that everybody wants to ensure we're moving forward, but we're doing it thoughtfully. We're going to do it with shared success. And I had, somebody give me a way to articulate it that I thought was fabulous. Because anytime you're doing something of scale and it's change or change management and shared vision, one, get real clarity on the vision or the destination. And each of us are starting from a different place of origination. And if you can articulate the point of destination, everybody can course correct and get themselves in line quickly. You don't have to micromanage. You don't have to be their expert. That's why really defining what is our shared win, what is it we're trying to achieve, then each of us can go kind of rudder and get our team and our organization or our strategies in a line to achieve that. And ultimately, it's liberating. It's empowering. It's giving people the space and grace to be able to drive that. And I think an inner circle actually would do that, right? It's more about, I don't have all the answers. I need the advice and the expertise around me to help us get there. But I think rechecking that we're all in alignment on the shared win is super critical and important. And it helps keep us on course.
I've often said that relationships go bad with misaligned expectations, right?
Yeah.
I expected this, somebody shows up here. Now we have a gap, and that gap is going to create all kinds of friction and challenges and struggle between participants. Again, thinking about some of your most successful partner wins, can you talk about some of the rules of engagement? What did you got people together? What did you expect of them? What were some of the rules? I'm really curious about, Cheryl. I'm thinking of rooms we're not in, right? What's the expectation of you in those high profile, high impact rooms, in terms of what to do, what not to do? Just talk a little about rules of engagement, if you will.
Yeah, I think, clarity on expectations is a part of the shared vision, I think. It's the why, right? It's the context. So, whether it would be in a partner program or whether it was in new contract terms or whether it was in new program or product launches and offers that we'd bring out, trying our best to just authentically communicate the why. Here's what we're trying to achieve. And it shouldn't be at the expense or detriment of our partners or stakeholders or others. But sometimes, we may have a shared win, but we're each going to have our role to play to be able to bring that forward. So I think for me, and conveying it and communicating is reinforcing and recommunicating the why. And the why can be a business strategy or an imperative or a goal that we have, and there's no reason to be embarrassed or shy from it. That's what we have to have. Now, together, what's your big win? Let's make sure we can craft a win-win. And what resources can I marshal on my side to help you achieve it, but understanding where we're trying to go? And I think if you can foster and gain that mutual shared, and again, reinforced with integrity, confidentiality, commitment, and they trust you, you can do remarkable things. I mean, people, if you can offer clarity on here's what I expect, here's why I'm doing this, here's how we are going to kind of align and marshal the rest of the resources in the company, then your partners or your customers or whoever you're working on their behalf, at least they understand the swim lanes and what they can expect from us, to try and optimize and maximize the opportunity. And you know, success has a way of breeding success.
Right.
So, you know, you may have to go in and kind of learn together and, you know, hard fought a couple, but when we can build some mutual repeatable successes, then it's pretty easy to kind of galvanize and marshal the team.
Did you ever have to deal with bad behaviors within an inner circle? And if so, can you give us an example and what'd you do about it?
Well, I think we're all people, right? Human nature, sometimes emotions get a little high. And I think, you know, this is more just my personal style. I'm very much a collaborative person, praise publicly and coach privately. And, you know, I've had to definitely have a couple of those conversations. And I tell people, you know, I lead with a velvet hammer, but I own a sledgehammer. And sometimes you have to bring the right tool to the right issue.
She looks like a teddy bear, but she can kill you.
Don't have to use it very often.
That's how my kids describe, you know, their mother, right? She looks like a teddy bear, but she can kill you.
So it's like, you know, I mean, like I said, I think you can never underestimate just keeping people oriented on the context and the why. And sometimes if there's too much friction, or if potentially, you know, their strategies or what they're trying to achieve kind of deviates or changes, or they've had something that kind of gives more separation, like you were describing, between then maybe, you know, it's just a timing thing. And maybe, you know, we need to go work on something else together versus this together. But as long as we can keep it there. But I think on the personal, to your point of inner circle, some of this is as much personal rapport and building trusting, confidant relationships that frankly, that have persisted multiple companies. I mean, I still turn to former customers, and I turned to partners that were partners of mine when I was at two different companies, but they had a frame of reference of what we did together when I was at this company and what I've done at this company. And in all cases, it just further cements a strong, trusting friendship, honestly, and relationship. And I think, you know, you can never replace those or underestimate those. And it's kind of just that internal advice we seek from those. And part of it is we've earned it, right? We've earned those friendships, relationships, and kind of professional mentorships over time.
A friend often reminds me that none of us paint on the gray hair. You, of course, don't have any. But the rest of us don't paint on the gray hair, number one. Number two, he often says age is a terrible price to pay for wisdom.
Yeah.
And if you've been in business more than 5 minutes, you realize that, and you said it earlier, and I also believe within, you know, in this age of AI, it's more true than ever. None of us have all the answers.
No.
So the more you surround yourself with people that bring unique perspectives, unique lenses, unique capabilities to really build a more holistic approach to solving that challenge or opportunity. I don't believe everybody's damaged. So it's also could be an upside opportunity of I want the right people in that room, right? Really thinking through what our options are, what our and I think the initiatives become more successful.
And I'll tell you, Dave, I really think right now more than any other time, irrespective of industry, I think time and the pace, just the pace of our world, the pace of business, the pace of customers' expectations, it's at a level all of us are having to kind of recalibrate to and find that fifth gear to kick into. And a curated, trusted group of relationships, frankly, can help you save time. What have you experienced? They may have been through something you haven't yet, or they may be at a different part. So I think there is done well. There is just in this reality we're in of time, you're going to have to make the best insightful, thoughtful judgments that you can with the help of all the insights that these tools and AI are going to offer us. But you're going to have to go faster. The world's going to move you by. And so I think it's never been tougher than it is now, frankly, just from a
Yeah.
pace.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, I'm reminded of Dad drove into us that life's too short to make all the mistakes yourself. Learn from the lessons others have learned, and I think one of the incredible untapped potential of an inner circle is the experiences they've had in similar situations. Cheryl, I'm fascinated that, and my story. I didn't speak a word of English when I came to this country, so I'm fascinated by the power of the English language. And there's actually no terminology for good risk, right? We might think of, and we might, refer to it as an opportunity. But if you think about risk, and most people think of risk as negative or downside or right detrimental, if you think of positive risk, if you think of, betting on a market signal or a untapped asset that we may have, and with a partner, we can go in together. And you and I both also know Paolo Dobell, right?
Yeah.
Another board advisory member. And, I love what, her last company Insona was doing is helping clients move from mainframes to cloud, right? There's an opportunity to do that, to really kind of bring what you've done in the past to the future. And it creates a whole lot of other potential. The AI space, you and I've talked about, lots of opportunities for people to intentionally collaborate, but you're not going to want to do that blindly. You're not going to want to do that carelessly. You're not going to want to do that with just anybody. So again, this idea of who's in that room, that's a high valued real estate. Who's in that room on that mission with you that not just talks about, but demonstrates a vested interest in your success that you want to go to battle with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, whether you said it's a negative, I think back to this time dimension. I think we're in a unique kind of place where, at least from a business perspective, risk always implied cost, right? It's too expensive. It's going to slow us down. It's going to be too disruptive. Where now, frankly, with a lot of these new tools, and we're back to, you can take faster, smaller, more calculated risks, learn from it, iterate, go back out so much faster. The cost isn't as high. It's almost like the cost is higher not to risk and test and fail, or you're going to get completely surpassed. So, again, the chemistry of that inner circle is important with like-minded, curious, competitive people that are eager to just continue evolving, growing, and learning. It's awesome. Actually, the timing, I love it. I'm geeking out a little bit, but I think the timing right now is fantastic.
I love it. So for our audience, if you've missed this conversation, you missed a good one. Cheryl Cook has been our guest. She is, full disclosure, she is on the Avner Advisory Board, our Revenue Advisory Board. Most recently, she was Senior Vice President of Global Partner Marketing at Dell Technologies and instrumental in the Dell EMC merger and decades of just fabulous frontline experience in working with partners. And that's why we wanted to name and focus this episode on helping partners win. Inner Circle is my next book. We are live each week on Tuesdays at noon Eastern. If you haven't heard me describe the terminology, I've got the first episode I spent on really defining it as a curated group of high valued relationships that inspire, that challenge, that elevate and amplify your personal and professional growth through, we often talk about mutual trust. Cheryl brought that up several times. That mutual trust is without it, it's a non-starter, right? It's absolutely the foundation. You're not going to go to battle with people that you don't know, like, respect, or trust. Measurable collaboration for sake of collaboration, I've always believed, is a waste of time. Collaboration to make that end result better, stronger, more impactful is invaluable. And last but not least, shared success. And again, Cheryl, I love how you brought it up. I talk about glaring clarity on what that shared success is, then we both know we're in the same conversation. We're in the same boat, rowing with the same velocity and veracity in the same direction. And without those, I believe it's really difficult to gain any meaningful outcome from it. So thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Cheryl, appreciate you. And for our audience, we'll look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thanks, everybody.